Welcome, everyone, to episode 116 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Penteloresco. I write stuff and podcast too. Today, my guest is the wonderful, almost human, totally Slytherin, awesome writer and stuff, Amy Lawrence, who is based out of Australia. We had a wonderful conversation. But before we get to that, I'm going to take a moment here. I've been working on 2 books for a long time, and one of them is all done. I literally just handed in the last proof to my publisher, editor, etc. I want to take a quick second and thank Taya Van Diepen for putting the final touches on my back matter, the back of the book. Taya did a great job. Holy crap, she's good at that. Like, really, really good at that. I might have to use her more often than not for that talent than not. Just awesome. But yeah, no, it's done, and like all done. Like, there's nothing else left for me to do. I've done everything I need to. Now it's just up to what's the term here? At this point, it's up to fate. It's out of my hands. You always kind of look at a book when it's done, and you go, yeah, I could fix this. Yeah, I could fix that. But the truth of the matter is, I did all I could, and you gotta let it go, and I got other things to work on, and I'm going to be working on those things very shortly. But for now, let's go to our conversation with Amy Lawrence.
Cool, no worries.
So I'm just going to say this now. I have turned the recorders on, which means if there's anything incriminating you want to say, it's going to be recorded live. So by all means, do what you're going to do. You're semi-amused already, so that's a good sign. That means you got a personality, and I like that. So what's up?
Yeah, man. I got to apologize before we start because I have a cold coming on. So, like, the coughing and the clearing of the throat is just going to happen, and I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I'm a trained professional or something.
Yeah, or something.
I'm
good at or something.
Hey, we all are. Here's to or something. Yeah, that's right. Amen and cheers. So, I wanted to contact you for a couple of reasons. One, we have a mutual friend, right? And she was cool, and she recommended you, and she said, you're awesome. So I said, okay, let's do this. Right? So are you a full-time author at this point? Or are you one of us day job / author but night superheroes?
Yeah, that's pretty much me at the moment. So my day job is I'm a full-time English teacher.
Nice.
For high school teacher, which in Australia means year 7 to 12. And people always ask, which year do you teach? The way that our schools usually work is all of year 7 happens at once and all of year 8 happens at once. So you only get one class in each year level. So I'm teaching every year except year 10 at the moment. So 7, 8, 9, 11, 12.
You got a favorite?
No, they're all good for different reasons. I really love having like the 11s and 12s because you can go really deep into critical analysis and things with them. But the year 7s are just so like naive and shiny and enthusiastic about everything, and they're like, please give us homework tonight, and you're like, you're so weird. There's pros and cons.
So grade 11 is when I'm in Canada, where I was in Ontario. That's when I actually learned about critical thinking. So the first month, my teacher just let us read The Great Gatsby. And he made us all sound really pretty and stuff like that. And he let us talk and say a damn word for a month. And then at the end of the month, he's like, okay, so I've heard of you guys for a month. So this is what you missed. And he started with the siren sequence, like on like page 8. I'm like, did any of you know that? No? Okay, so now we're going to educate you on how English is actually done. And no, but in all seriousness, he was the best teacher I ever had in terms of English, because he not only did that I decided to become a writer at a very young age, and he was definitely there to encourage it. He actually would read my early novels, that poor bastard, and yeah, no, well, actually, he's great. The sad thing is, he's got such a... Okay, so I made it a point to go and thank every one of my teachers that had a big impact on my life, except him.
Yeah, I remember saying that.
Yeah, except him, because he's got such a common name. Like, I
I would.
Yeah.
I kind of got through a friend of a friend. He knows I exist. He knows I do books. He's really proud of me. But I would still love to actually meet him face to face somewhere down the road. Give him a copy of the book as a thank you. Because without him, I probably never would have gone down this road. And I'm not going to say my life choices were always the best going down this road, but on the same token, I like who I am, and he played a really big part of it, and he's like the only one left I haven't really had a chance to thank. There was a couple others I wish I could have thanked, but unfortunately they passed on. But everybody else I've got, again, it's just teachers have a really big impact on students' learning. Especially, I find a lot of people don't talk about the social sciences as not important. Bullshit. They actually might be the most important, because it's not necessarily the skills in terms of the English, the grammar, the reading. Although I think they are a little underrated, but I don't think the important thing is things like English, history, things like geography, politics, economics. They teach you critical thinking, and they make you look at systems of communication and how and it gives you an analysis. She is nodding her head, ladies and gentlemen. I think she approves of this message. Yes. But no. But the thing of it is, that's what the social sciences actually give. They teach kids and the students to think. Critical thinking is not taught enough in schools anymore.
It's really interesting actually being an English teacher in like a 21st century context, particularly in Australia, because there's this really huge push at the moment towards STEM, which is excellent and awesome. Like, I recognize that it's so important to be supporting particularly young women, considering STEM as a legitimate option for their future careers and things. But by the same token, it's almost becoming like a political buzzword, to the point where the arts and humanities have just been completely de-emphasized in our education system. And so we actually have had several meetings to talk about ways that we can raise the profile of the humanities and say, hey, humanities is a legitimate career option as well. And more than that, humanities are actually critical for human survival, because we need empathy and imagination and understanding of human psychology as much as we need technology and engineering and, you know, these scientific wonders that we can produce. So
that's right. That's right. Basically, we know how to build a bridge, but we no longer know how to walk across it.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
Yeah, so...
You know, it's pretty scary with some of these technological developments that are happening. I mean, I was reading an article last week about Facebook's experimentation with, like, autoresponder bots, and the fact that they actually had to get in and turn the bots off because they had let them go and chat to themselves just to train them in speaking natural human language. But it had got to the point where the bots had actually evolved their own language, and the handlers could no longer actually interpret what the bots were saying, and the bots were having this conversation in their own made-up, invented language.
Which is really cool, because my first novel series is called The Cloud Diver, and I have the whole concept of the idea of the Matrix meets Indiana Jones. So one of the things I'm going to be exploring in later books is the whole concept of robots evolving their own language and then also evolving their own programs. Because like anything else, anything else in the world, you build something and you give it the ability to grow, it will grow, and it will go in its own direction, and it's amazing on the one hand, it's frightening on the other, because it's like, well, what is this? And then we go to a really deeper question, which is like, what is alive? Like, that's a really, really big question coming up in the next 20 years. What is alive? How do we define life? If we define life by consciousness, imagination, and critical thinking, it might entirely be possible in 20 years that a machine will be able to do it better than we do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, people get all like twisted up about, if we do human cloning and things, do they have the same rights as humans, and are they still human? But yeah, I think artificial intelligence is going to prove to be a much more pressing concern in terms of figuring out where we draw the boundary between being alive and not being alive, and who is entitled to independence and autonomy, to direct their own lives.
Well, also even on a bigger scale, like work rights. Does a machine have a right to work? This machine
That's
writes.
it.
Yeah, I mean that's a big issue going to come down the road. If we make these machines more and more sophisticated, right?
Yeah.
I could actually see it, like we're replaced by automations, and then the automations themselves will evolve to the point where they decide, you know what, we're not doing this anymore, and they're going to go back to human labor again, because I could actually see that. It makes a bizarre kind of sense, because what'll happen is like you said, you make an intelligence, it's going to go its own direction. It's like having a kid or a student. That kid's going to go do whatever that day. Yeah. It's like that kid's going to do whatever damn well feels like, and you're not going to put all you're there.
It's like you can shape it, you can input. It's like you can set the program and start the algorithms, but once you've let the kid go out the door, you've given them your value system, you've taught them and trained them as much as you can, you've given them a disciplined framework to work with, but ultimately they're going to do their own thing and be their own person. And yeah, I agree with you. I think the artificial intelligence is going to prove to be really a really interesting 50 years coming up ahead of us, I think.
I think I'm going fishing. I'm going to go fishing in the mountains, I think.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
Again, no disrespect to any machinery who will have heard this 20 years in the future. I don't have a problem. Hey, this is all going to be recorded somewhere, somehow, some way in the future. It's the way it is. So with all due respect to the machines, it's not that I have a thing against you. I just confuse way too easy. I'm just going to go fishing. I can understand fishing, right? It's a very zen kind of deal.
That's it, exactly. It's funny, actually. I'm just rereading Tomorrow When the War Began to teach to one of my classes. Have you ever read it before?
I have not read that one, no.
No, I was going to say probably not, because it's an Australian author and Australian fiction.
I like some Australian fiction. I like some Australian fiction. I've read a bit. I've read David Hare. He's really cool. I like Jay Kristoff. He's pretty cool. I like Sarah Douglas. She's really, really, really good. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Just managed to escape the orbit.
Yeah.
So this one, Tomorrow When the War Began, is like this bunch of teens go out camping in the bush for the week, and they hear these planes fly over, and they're like, oh, it's just for commemoration day or whatever they call it in the book, and they come back at the end of their camping week to discover that the whole country has been invaded and taken over, and they're like, okay, no electricity, no power, no access to food or anything. They're like, yep, we're pretty much just going to go back bush where we came from for at least a little while and just,
well,
get our heads in the sand as much as we can.
Well, it's just, there are just some problems too big. I look at it kind of like, I'm looking at the big problems going on today, and I'm looking at the fact that, okay, critical thinking is not being taught. We have a huge divide between rich and poor, and then the rich seems to be trying to divide the poor into as many little classes as they can. I don't know what racism is like in Australia. I imagine there's some based on your Aborigine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, based on your Aborigine population there.
Small point of order, just so you know, because I know a lot of people outside of Australia aren't particularly aware of this, but actually the preferred term is Aboriginal, not Aborigine, because Aborigine does have some negative connotations.
Oh, really?
Based on
I didn't know that.
Things like that. So, yeah, I know. Most people outside of Australia don't, but yeah, it's Aboriginal.
Aboriginal, okay, cool.
Islanders.
I learned something today. That's cool.
All right, continue with your point.
Yeah, it's just we got some really big problems coming up, and it's going to be really interesting to see which way I have both a lot of dread and a lot of optimism, because there are people like me who are like, okay, let's figure out other ways of doing these awesome things, so I can say to the machine the big F and middle finger and go off into my own on my own venture and crusade. And there is a big laugh over here, so I think Miss Amy has had thoughts similar in her own head, right? So she's like, little bit, just okay. But so there's that. But I also like as I get older and wiser, and the other thing that gives me optimism is the world's really a magical place. I mean, just think about this. Think about this. I am talking to an author I've never had the pleasure of meeting face to face at all. We are chatting. I've cracked a few smiles. I've made her laugh a little bit about life in general. And this would not have been possible 20 years ago. And
yeah, exactly.
That's a really incredible miracle. We can actually talk to each other, understand who we are. I mean, we don't have to speak the Klingon that is troll on the internet. We can actually just talk to each other and say, hey, what's up? What you doing? What do you care about? So I'm going to go back one step because I don't fully understand it. What is STEM? Like, just forgive my ignorance. I just was like, we went by it so quick. I'm like, I better get myself more educated here.
Yeah, that's cool. It's kind of, yeah, man, we're so oversaturated within the press and things like that these days, and I follow a lot of that kind of people on Twitter as well. So it's just, yeah, it's really funny that people like still exist that haven't heard of it yet. So it's just an acronym that means science, technology, engineering, and maths.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that it makes sense. I just wanted, I was like, I better make sure I know what the heck she's talking about here. So, yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, it's just yeah, no, science, like I said, we are in an age definitely where science, engineering are a big part of whatever we do. I'm doing sound engineering right now, having this conversation with you, and you know I'm semi hitting my computer for all the occasional little pauses in here, but I gotta fix that with a better computer up the road. Right, but the thing I get across is like, we're all playing with this stuff, and we're all coming up with our own ways of doing things, and that gives me optimism because we have the ability right now, by and large, to communicate with every single person on the planet, and that's never existed before.
Yeah, and even in terms of like looking at this combination of approaching science and technology with some humanities empathy. You know, the fact that we can communicate with so many different people around the world now, I think, is a really positive thing in terms of that, because it's just, there's so many different ways now to open up to new perspectives. A couple of times, some of my classes earlier in the year were doing some units on like culture and how literature interacts with culture and things, and so I had a couple of guest people come that I knew from Twitter and just Skype into the classroom and just chat with the students for half an hour and answer their questions. And I had this really interesting conversation. My year 12s were doing a text involving cemeteries and mortuaries and things like that.
Interesting.
So I had this friend on Twitter, who used to be a mortician. And so she jumped on, and again, we just did question and answer, and the students were able to ask all these questions live of this mortician and find out all this stuff about what it's actually like to work in the context of their novel. So, I mean, technology's got some pretty amazing opportunities. It's pretty scary, but I think as long as we approach it with this strong understanding that it needs to be tied with empathy and with, a view to human welfare and to connecting people and to understanding each other better because of it, then I think a lot of good can come out of it.
Absolutely. No, empathy, understanding, and a little bit of wisdom. But I know wisdom doesn't usually come right away. Usually that has to get beat in India a little bit. But yeah. Well, because when we're young, we're like, we have all the answers to everything. And when we get a little older, we're like, no, actually, we don't know anything. It's like, what?
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you're like, so what works?
Elephant.
Yeah, it's there's no other magical answer to that. It's like, how does it work? We don't know. We how do you get by the day in and day out? I don't know. What do you know? I'm here. You're here.
It's magical. You just kind of you just do. That's it.
Yeah, it's all magic, every single thing. But we have all the answers. Good. Yeah, it's like, come to me in 10 years. Come to me in 10 years. If you have all the answers in 10 years, I will pay you, right? But if you have a collection play, I'm gonna run. I'm just gonna let you know. she's nodding again.
If only it were that simple.
I know, and well, I'm okay. Actually, I find simple exists, easy does not. That's actually simple is simple. Easy, but nothing simple comes easily. And that's a really interesting paradox we have. It's like, because I look at like I have a really interesting fascination with elegance, especially like in games. I love elegance in games, and one of my favorite games of all time is Tetris. And if you guys
oh my gosh, I used to play hours and hours and hours of Tetris on our old
Nintendo?
Oh my 64-bit computer when I was in high school.
Oh my god.
I love Tetris.
Yeah, but Tetris is such a simple game.
Yeah.
But it's also like math, and it's such a simple concept, and it works. But whoever thought of that is a true genius, because I never would have imagined that in a million years as a game, right? I just never would have. You know what I mean? And I don't and no and almost nobody else would have either. But it was so simple. Somebody saw
You
it.
know what's ironic is that it's so simple, and yet like we have all these hundreds of like. Okay, my kids are young. I have a 5-year-old kid, and he's really into his iPad. He loves his screen time, which can be a problem sometimes, but we're working on that. But there's these hundreds of apps that are pitched, particularly at parents, going, "Oh, teach your kid these math skills and teach your kid that." None of them actually equate to that, as you say, elegance and the simplicity and effectiveness of Tetris for teaching something like spatial awareness.
Yeah, yeah. Then there's also like my other favorite elegant toy is Lego. Because
Yes.
Lego is the absolute shit. Like literally, it is the absolute shit. Because what it does is, you can teach anything with Lego. You can do DNA change. You can do chemistry. You can do structure, organization. And you can even do storytelling with Lego. And like Lego is like literally the coolest. It is. I read this once in a book called Sophie's Choice. I think Sophie's Choice. No, Sophie's World. That's the work.
I shall agree.
Yeah. Sophie's World. It talks about how Lego is the coolest toy in the universe. And after reading that and thinking about that, it's like, no, you're absolutely right. The only thing that comes
Yeah.
close to it is a Slinky.
The universal, that's true.
Yes. Slinkies are just
Especially
cool.
if you've got a good set of stairs.
Yeah, you want to, like I said, Slinky with stairs does compete with Lego for just a minute. Now, when Slinky's done, right, then Lego wins again. But for that moment, it's like so cool. I can see you're still like 12 at. I can see you're still like 12 at heart here yourself. So
It's true.
it's true. It's true. So
That's why I'm a high school teacher. I get to hang out with teenagers all day. No
it's,
one expects me to actually be too mature.
so do you get those moments in that like, why am I the adult? Because I get those moments sometimes. Wait, I'm the adult here?
Yeah, it's true. I'm pretty flamboyant in the classroom, I have to say. Like, what you see is what you get, and I don't act any different around my students. So, when my Year 7s ask for homework, I tell them that they're weird, and they're okay with this because I have established a relationship with them that I can call them out and say that they're being weird, and that's fine. And so, yeah, sometimes I'll turn around and be like, yep, well, who put me in charge again? Why did someone think I was responsible? This is just, no.
I on my day job, because I throw freight, so I talk about high school. I deal with high school stuff there all the time. And I'm like, I look at them. How did I become the adult here? It's like, what? I play video games and talk Lego and play algorithm stuff with Taya or other things. And I'm like, I goof off when I'm not actually creating stuff. So why am I the adult here? How do I know this basic stuff you don't?
It's so weird to think back at my parents at this age. Like, okay, I'm 31, and I remember my mum's 30th birthday party. Like, I don't know, I wasn't that old. I must have only been like 5 or so, but I remember my mum's 30th birthday party. I remember hanging the banner above the stairs and everything. And just the thought that parents would have like this rich inner life and go and, like, as you say, go and do stuff to just goof off is just like, I still can't wrap my head around that, even though as a fully functioning adult human being I really ought to be able to.
It's because it's your parents, and like there's a point with your parents you have to realize they're mortal, and every one of us hits that point at different points in our lives, right? And the thing is, you still love them. Like, you don't look at them the same way you look at them when you were a kid, because when you're a kid, like my dad was my hero. Even now today, I still look up to him a little bit with some of the things he does. But I see his flaws a lot more now than I did when I was a kid. I don't think that's a bad thing. It just shows also, because also I realized too, if I don't forgive him for his flaws now, my kids down the road will not forgive me for mine.
Yeah, that's really true.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really important. It's really important to when you look at your parents, just look at the fact that they were human beings that did the best they could. More often than not, that's what they are, who they are, and they don't get it all right. But you're not gonna get it all right either. You're gonna make all kinds of bad mistakes yourself. Hopefully, you learn from them, and that's all you can really hope for.
That's it. Doesn't matter how well prepared you think you are. It's always just a juggle in the moment, But that's life, pretty much. Life doesn't have a manual. You just gotta, as we said before, how do you get from morning to night? Well, magic.
Magic.
As you go on, hope you're doing the best you can.
I've come up with 3 rules to life. Just three though.
Yeah.
Show up, do your thing. The rest is rain.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's it.
Pretty much.
I don't know anything else. Is there anything else you can teach me? No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. everything. It's true.
Yeah,
It's
but
kind of similar to this saying that I learned. I must have been in high school, I think. I went through this phase in year 10 of like, we had, I don't know what schools in Canada and America are like, but in schools in Australia, most schools, you get given a compulsory school diary.
yep.
And you're supposed to record your homework and stuff in it, and no one ever does, obviously. But I went through this phase in year 10 where I was like collecting famous quotes from people, and I like tried to fill it up so I had one for every single day throughout the whole diary.
That's really
And
cool.
there's this one that's just really stuck with me that goes, and I can't remember who said it now, but it's, you know, if it's everything's always okay in the end, if it's not okay, it's not the end.
That's a really cool quote. I want to know who
Yeah.
said that. I want to know who says that actually.
I don't know, but it's really stuck with me, and I guess that's sort of like my personal motto in life, you know. It's like everything is always okay in the end, so if it's not okay, hang in there, because that means it's not the end yet.
I like that. It's really optimistic. And no matter what, like no matter how bad it gets, you just gotta keep going. And sometimes and sometimes it's really true. The very worst moments, sometimes lead to the very best. You don't always expect it. Like it's one of those things where you just go through it and you come out of it and you're like, I became such a bigger person. I'm not sure I want to go through that ever again, but I'm glad I did it once. Right?
Yeah, that's it. I still knew the experience and recognized what it contributed. Exactly.
Yeah, no, but that's really cool quote. If you find out who said that between now and when this airs, give it to me. That's really cool. Do you still got that journal? I'm just curious if you do.
No, it's possible that I do somewhere in one of my I also went through this phase of thinking that I would be a scrapbooker, and so I have like these 5 massive tubs of just scrapbooking junk out in the garage with all these bits and pieces of my life that I thought, you know, would be really interesting to scrapbook, because, you know, everyone's really interested in sitting down and reading about my life and looking at the movie tickets that I went to when I was in year 12. I'm sure this is going to be queuing up when I finally finish this. So it's possible that it's out there, but I don't know.
Well, I'll let you know a cool story. I talk about my Arizona experience. So this is like how it's not the end. It ties to both this and your scrapbooking actually. So what happened was no, it really does. It's in a really cool way. So
Yeah.
I was going through my absolute worst moment, and then one day I get a package from my sister. I did not expect it at all. She came to visit me. I think she saw a year right before everything went bad. She saw everything right at near its best moment, and then it became its worst. And what ended up happening was, I went through a really rough time, and one day I just get something out of the mail, and I see something I hadn't seen in 20 plus years. I never had any pictures of my childhood. My mom, when my mom separated, took all of it. So I hadn't seen it in like at that point about 20 years, maybe 21 years, something like that. And then suddenly I get this book, and I look inside. It doesn't have everything, but does have quite a bit. It has me and my sister when we were like 4 and 5 years old. 5, 6, or 4, 5, 6 years old, and I'm like, wow, and it's just like, it humbled me. It made me kind of realize like what really mattered and what everything I was going through. So it helped me move on, but also sometimes I'm just something for you to consider with what you've done in the past. If you don't, with your scrapbooking, you may not see it right this minute, but one day you might like stumble into this stuff, and you're gonna go through it. You're gonna like see the story of yourself, of where you are and where you are now, and you're gonna be like, wow, I have come a long way. At least I sincerely hope that for you, right? And right, there are some people that never leave the past, but every once in a while, like when you get something like that, it's like that is super super cool. And it's a really big key. Like some of that stuff, like might not seem like much now, but it'll take you back to a particular memory, a particular experience, which is why we collect stuff to begin with, is for right. So I mean, that's so like again.
I had this conversation.
Go.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, go.
I was just gonna say, it just reminded me of this one time. So my husband's not much of a reader. He's not really into English. He's not really into books and things like that. English was his worst subject in school. It's okay. I still love him. It's all good. And he's very supportive of my writing, which is amazing. But I am a real book hoarder, as I think most writery, booky sort of people are, and I have like zillions of bookcases full of books and things. And we had this night where I just like it was at the point when all the books and the bookcases were dumped in the spare room together with all of the spare laundry. It's like, you know, the house always accumulates the laundry pile, and that was the clean laundry pile. And so I'd gone down there to fish some laundry out of something. Because I was taking so long, he came down to find me. I'm like, look, just stop for a second. And we actually had this amazing moment. I made him like sit down on the floor with me and lean back against the wall and just look at the books. And I'm like, this is my photo albums. These are my photo albums. I can tell you got every single one of these books that are on my shelf, and I have like hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands if I'm going to be honest, books on those shelves, and I can tell you where every single one of them came from. So it's not just that I'm keeping it for the sake of the story that's inside it, but it's, as you say, it's the whole package. It's the memories that it evokes when you see that particular book, of where you were when you were reading it, of what you were listening to, of who you were with, of who gave it to you, of how you chose that book to buy, you know, all that sort of stuff. Sort of stimulates around it as well.
Oh, yeah, I mean, because what we're trying to do, if we're really honest with ourselves, we try to create an experience with our books. That's what we're trying to do. You're trying to go with your books. You're trying to create that experience for somebody else. I mean, that's your goal.
Yeah.
Right? And now you're hoping it's in the millions and millions, so you can just swim in money in your own money bin somewhere. But even, right, but even if that isn't the case, let's say you have a niche of people, which might be where you end up. Maybe more, maybe less. I mean, I'm not gonna, like I said, I wish you nothing but success. I really do. And yeah. But the thing of it is, right? You want people to come to you and say, "I had this great experience reading your stuff." That would be the biggest compliment I think you probably could have.
Yeah. I'm very much a fan of the Maggie Stiefvater school of authorial thought there. It's like, you know, I want you to either, she always says when she releases the book, she's like, I want everyone to either love this book or hate this book. I don't want anyone to be in the middle ground, because the whole point that she's striving for is to create this emotional reaction in the reader. And if that's a negative emotional reaction, well, so be it, because there's always enough people who love it as well. But I think, you know, I sort of feel what she's saying in terms of the worst reaction that can have to your story is just that lukewarm
apathy. Apathy is the worst thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the absolute worst thing, and it's something you try to avoid with your stuff. So you hope you do the best you can. You hope that it was it's like in my case, my story, my novel is a little silly. If you've read any of my tweets or listened to any of my podcasts, you know it's a little bit eccentric. She's smiling, so right. So
nothing wrong with that.
No, but I'm hoping that people have as much fun reading it as I did writing it. And I'm hoping people catch the zillion Easter eggs I left inside. If you were a gamer of any, if you're a gamer of any kind, if you like, I sneak so many things in there. I literally, like, one thing I did, my artist today, we met for coffee, and we were talking. He's like, I want to do this, and I told him, no, not here. This part later. I actually made this specifically for you because I knew, right? I knew you dig that. And I wanted to make sure there was something there for you to play with. And because we both liked this game series, I'm like, he'll dig this. Like, he'll personally dig me picking this particular thing. And it gives him, and like I say, it also gives him something to look forward to draw as well. So,
that's really cool.
Yeah, so that's my hope. That's my secret hope, is when people read my stuff, they're taking on this crazy adventure and they learn something. That's my secret hope, or not so secret hope. Now it's
like,
on.
It's like in my classroom. It's like I have a reputation, not so much this year, but in previous years at other places that I've taught. For a teacher who could be easily distracted, I'm like, haha. What you don't realize, dear students who think you are just distracting me, is that actually I am totally on top of the fact that you are trying to do this, and through my distraction, I am going to teach you another lesson that you didn't realize you needed to learn, that I'm going to connect back to what we do later. So you think you're distracting me, but actually I'm teaching you stuff. So
sometimes it works. I had a physics teacher. I cracked her up because I was silly, and she had just the right. Like, I just knew where that button was with her. I just knew it, right? And I discovered it by accident, and it just, like, I had literally made her leave the class in sheer laughter. Like, just, right? I have to admit, I was a bit of a flake at that year. I literally was. I was more interested in making people laugh than passing. But I had a blast because it was my last year. I didn't care because it was like I had my credits. I had them. I did. I was just like riding it through. It's like I don't really need to get this mark if I really don't want it. That's not fun. And it might not have been the wisest choice, but I don't regret it.
Well, you know, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You learn something either way, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
I look at that. So our system is different, where like every single piece of in the system that I'm in the state that I'm in, every single piece of assessment that you do for all of year 11 and all of year 12 contributes to your university entrance score. And so, like, kids spend 2 years completely, like, freaking out over every single piece of assessment and like, obsessing over every mark that they do, because it's just, like, all of it is adding up to it. Whereas the way you say, and you're just like, yep, I got my credits, that's cool, I can just enjoy myself now. I think there's value in that.
Well, you have to. Like, look, the thing of it is, this is a thing for a student at some point has to listen, probably should listen to. There's the message that's not said but is implied, even though teachers don't necessarily mean to do this, right? And then I'm not criticizing any teacher saying this. You can be whatever you want to be, provided you're good enough. That's what those assessments say.
That's it.
The reality, however, is you can just be anything you want to be, and fuck those assessments.
Pretty much.
Yep.
This is it. Like, I love that in my family I have such a diverse range of experiences of, like, getting to uni and not going to uni, and, like, everyone still being successful in terms of getting where they wanted to go, because I can sit there and say to my students and go, look, here is the range of options, here is proof just within my family that there are so many different ways of getting to where you want to be.
Absolutely.
And achieving your goals, and that this is just one path. Yeah, it might be the most obvious and straightforward path, but it's still just one path. There are so many more options, you know?
Well, and the other thing too, it's like sometimes, and this is what I find with people that go that path sometimes, they'll get everything they want in terms of, they might get that financial security. Not always. I find that path leads to a lot of debt, and then life tends to happen, and it kind of cascades from there for a lot of people. But even if you get everything you want in that one thing, let's say you are successful, you're out of debt, you're doing whatever it is you're doing. The fact of the matter is, what happens with a lot of people is they get older and they're like, what am I doing with my life? And, right? Yeah. That happens a lot too, because usually with systems like that, it's like, again, if you're good enough, you get this job. Did you really want this job? Right? Did you really want that? What if you wanted something else? And the thing is, what happens, especially with kids, I remember when I was in kindergarten, they told me, what do you want to be when you grow up? They actually asked that at 5, right? Now, I don't know if that still happens where you are, but where I was, they asked that.
5, right? Yeah.
Well, why not, right? Because you know what, you're never too old to think about that stuff. Hey, I made my decision at 13. I really did, and I haven't regretted it ever since. You're never too young to make that decision, as long as it's something you really, really want to do, and that's how I look at it. But make sure it's what you want to do, because because what'll end up happening is that if you go with security over, if you choose security over what you want, you might in the short run, right, be like, again, you might solve your immediate problems, a whole roof over your head, food on the table, things of that nature. You might solve those problems, but you won't necessarily be happy doing it. And I've seen that time and time again.
You'll wake up one day and be, what am I doing with my life? That's it.
Yeah.
I think the other thing as well is that a lot of the students, because of the nature of the school where I am, a lot of the students feel like there's all this pressure that they have to know what they want to do. And a lot of them just don't. Like, they don't have the life experience or the maturity. They haven't done enough. They haven't tested themselves in enough different situations to actually know what it is that they're actually interested in doing, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with taking the time to do that, just as you say, as long as it's your passion that's driving you, and that you're trying to figure out who you are and what makes you tick, and somehow channeling that into what you're doing every day with your life.
Well, that's the ultimate important thing. That I don't like I said, I'm certainly not a rich man. I've had my ass kicked in life quite a bit. And if you look at it strictly on the financial end, I'm not what a lot of people would consider success. I have an okay job, not a great job. I make decent money, but not great money, right? But on the flip side, I have chased my dreams. I have lived in 2 countries. I've worked with my heroes. I've starved. I've been through many highs. I've been through many lows. And I've just been riding this ride. And somehow I ended up being a podcaster, talking to authors from literally all over the world.
How is that even a thing? How is podcaster even a job title? Like, that goes back to what we were talking about before with the magic of technology.
Yeah, no, it just...
How is it even a job?
Well, because it's time consuming or something. I don't know. I don't work very hard at this. I didn't even come at you with prep questions. I'm like, probably I can just imagine when you read my tweet. It's like, I don't know what we're doing. Me neither. Should be fun. You're like, wait, what?
I was like, okay, cool, sounds good.
Yeah.
I can ad lib. That's no worries.
Well, no, I always do. I rather get your personality out than
Yeah.
because it.
Spontaneous fun.
Well, that and also it's just simply the fact that, well, that's what you really have. Like, it's not, your books are important. Your books say something about who you are, but ultimately, if you're looking at what you're actually marketing, it's yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's pros and cons to that, of course, but yeah,
Sure.
Ultimately, exactly, you're a personality as an author, whether you want to be or not. And as you say, that's the common thread that ties you together, which I think these days has a lot of really positive options. I like the books the next million books that I have planned, because authors do that and have books planned until they die. I jump around a bit between age groups. I jump around a bit between genres and between tone. And I think that in this day and age where you've got access to social media and you can promote yourself as a person, as a human being, rather than just as books, I think it makes jumping around like that a lot more viable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your voice. So I think that's pretty exciting.
I wrote a graphic novel epic poem, and now I'm writing an actual novel that kind of doesn't follow the rules.
Nice.
Because that's just who I am. So,
yeah.
We actually haven't talked about your books yet. We've been talking for about 40 minutes.
Crazy.
Well, I focus on the person first and the book second. Because I just feel that's the right way to do it. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's my podcast. So, but
podcast for rules.
Yes. So that I have rules. Well, something like that. Anyway,
Just pretend.
Yeah, something like that. So you've written, I think, 1 book so far, or is there more?
Well, I had a bunch of short stories published, and they've been collected into a couple of different anthologies and things. So I've got bits and pieces. I've got a book of plays as well that I wrote.
That's cool.
They're like religious church plays. They're pretty niche, but it's there. But yeah, so my first actual novel came out at the end of May this year, and book 2 in the series, I just handed it in this week, which is amazing, and it's coming out, believe it or not, at the end of September. So yeah.
So we both have book releases soon. Mine's October 17th, and I have an ebook serial. It looks like it's going to be a serial novel that starts in November, and then I'll be releasing 1 part every month until the next year. I don't know. Like I said, I don't play by the rules, and it seems to work for me. So whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got the drive and the passion, the motivation, self-discipline to do what you want to do, then do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like you. So.
Thanks. I feel tough.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Till now.
So I think we have an interview. I think we have an interview. So I'll wrap the official podcast part of this up, and I'll finish talking to you afterwards. But this is, what's your next book, and how can people find you?
Alrighty, so my next book is called True Roads Between. It's the sequel to Where Shadows Rise, that would be books 1 and 2 in the Sanctuary series, and book 3 will be out in February of next year to wrap up the series. It's in that awkward crossover zone between middle grade and young adult fantasy set in Australia. Yay, Australia! Read Australian books, they're awesome.
They really are.
The easiest way to find me is www.amylawrence.com, and all the links are there. There are links to my books. The second book is out in, just under 2 months
Yep.
at the moment, so you can grab that one anywhere books are had. And yeah, hit me up on social media, say hi. I like new people. New people are fun.
New people can be a lot of fun.
That was Amy Lawrence, ladies and gentlemen. You should check out her books. They seem really cool. I haven't actually read one yet myself as of this writing, but I am looking to amend that because it sounds really, really like fun stuff. Also, Amy is awesome. So, Amy, thank you very much for doing this. And that will do it for another episode of Just Jostling. Next week, I'll talk about When Worlds Collide a little bit more detail because that was a lot of fun. But beyond that, no, things are moving. The Wandering God is done, and I'm free for the weekend, which is kind of cool. I have to figure out what I'm going to be doing with myself. So, while I do that, there are a couple things you can do. You can subscribe to this podcast by iTunes or by Podomatic. Just click on the subscribe button, and you'll get episodes every week, which will be awesome. You can buy my books, The Watcher and Storm Dancer, and very soon The Wandering God of MerriWillBooks.com, Amazon, or anywhere else you can get books physically or electronically. You can get this book. I would love to appreciate that. Leave a nice review. And if you don't like the books, just don't tell anybody. That can be your secret. Beyond that, I also have shows Just Joshing on YouTube. More of them are getting uploaded all the time. There's going to be at least like I said, about a half a dozen more before the weekend's up. I think I'll work on that a little bit. Beyond that, though, guys, stay inspired. Do what you're called to do. And don't just settle for the easy way. Settle for your way, whatever that is.
Josh.